Any law firm that's not reaching out to their clients on holidays and on their birthday, they're just missing out. AI can do a lot of what we do right now, and it frees up the time for us to go and do the personal things. About the platinum rule versus the golden rule, and we're all taught growing up to treat people the way we want to be treated, but that's shit, treat people the way they want to be treated, and that's the platinum rule.
Welcome to John and Marc Podcast. I'm live here with Sam Aguiar. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
We're live at the Encore right now. We rescheduled from yesterday. Someone went to a hockey game last night.
Yeah, man. Stanley Cup. So I had to choose between a podcast with a nice view and Stanley Cup. So we flipped a coin, and T-Mobile Arena prevailed.
How was the game?
Dude, it was sick. It was sick. Did you watch it?
No.
Did you hear about it?
I had to friggin' work.
So while you were here working, it's been a hell of a series. I'm not a real hockey guy, but playoff hockey is something else. And my father-in-law, he's a big, actually, Carolina Panthers fan. So my wife's from that area. So we get out there, and it's just a big party.
Yeah.
And, the opening to the game is like, they literally bring a knight out onto the ice who's in gold, and they have like a Cirque du Soleil type thing going on. You have this lady who's being hoisted, and she's like a villain, and they bring her up like she's almost towards the ceiling. And then, on the breaks, when they're cleaning the ice, it's like dancers that are out there, like in barely any clothes, and they're really legit cleaning the ice. And, you've got like your EDM going and everything else. It was an experience, but, we went out and we got some Knights jerseys and decided to be Knights fans, and they didn't get it done last night. So. Yeah. But there was 4 goals scored in the first 8 minutes.
Oh, that's exciting.
It was nuts. And then, Vegas came back, tied. They were down, I want to say, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, tied it up, and then it was 4-3, and then there was an empty netter at the end. But it was a battle. It was fun.
I'm glad you got to go. There's multiple people I talked to who are realized the game was going on, didn't realize they got here and got tickets, and they're like, I gotta go.
Yeah, that's how it was.
That many cities have hockey teams anymore. Or do you have a Stanley Cup game when you're just sitting here in town?
No kidding. So that was great. And then I'll be in your area in a few weeks. I'm taking my son to World Cup. So,
which game are you going to?
It's the round of 32 in Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm going on my birthday on the 15th.
Happy birthday, man.
Thank
How old
you.
you turning?
I am turning 36.
Cheers to that.
I'm going with my wife and our au pairs from Spain. So Spain is playing Cabo Verde on my birthday at noon. So we're going there. I don't know where Cabo Verde is, but I've got a hunch Spain's going to win. If you're looking for gambling tips, it's a lock. Whatever money you have, put it on Spain.
So Aguiar is Portuguese. A lot of people want to think it's Spanish. So
I had no idea what it was.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you for telling me.
So I grew up in East Providence, Rhode Island.
No.
Very big. Yeah, man.
You're so nice, though.
Well, one of the big misconceptions out there. People from New England are like the nicest people in the freaking world. But I think
off camera, Joe, you're from New England?
Yeah, they conflate it with New York. Yeah. But people from New England are like the nicest people. So anyways, I grew up in East Providence, blue collar town, and the point I'm getting at is that, very Portuguese neighborhood, and about 50% of the kids I go to elementary school with, their grandparents can't speak any English. They were the ones that typically were the ones that immigrated over. And so a lot of these kids, they'd go home to their grandmothers and get yelled at in Portuguese when I'm over there. I couldn't speak Portuguese. And then they'd come right back out and speak a lot of English. Come to find out, most of them in that area, their family came from Cape Verde.
Oh.
And we called it Cape Verde. Maybe it is Capo Verde, but I know growing up, literally, small world, dozens of kids that I grew up with, their family were direct descendants from Cape Verde.
Oh.
And nothing about Cape Verde and soccer ever. These kids weren't like little child prodigies in soccer. So I have a feeling that Spain might get that one done too.
Yeah. How did you end up in Kentucky?
So born in Rhode Island. My dad was a Teamsters guy, just grocery warehouse. Mm. And it's weird because Rhode Island is tiny.
Yep.
Super saturated, and yet damn near everybody who lives in Rhode Island commutes at least an hour to work, which is the weirdest thing. So weird. So my dad would go and commute up towards Boston in a city called Norwood. My mom was getting her PhD. She went to school late, so she's getting her PhD the other way, going down to Storrs, Connecticut, to the University of Connecticut. She gets her PhD in English. Well, the only damn thing you can do with an English degree is teach English.
Yep.
So Murray State University is where we ended up in far western Kentucky.
So she went and taught English at Murray State.
Yeah, man. Packed up the U-Haul and went from Rhode Island to far western Kentucky.
And how old were you when that move happened?
13.
So your mom sat you down and we're like, Sam, we're moving
Yeah.
to Kentucky. And you're like, you're ruining my life.
No, I mean, I felt a little bit more bad for my sister. It's tough around girls.
Yeah.
I mean, I came in, everybody thought that the Rhode Island accent was cool.
Yeah.
I made friends pretty easily, but I'm also realized I'm a conformist, so I started talking with more of a Southern accent way quicker than most people do. I went to Tulane Law School for a year, and after that year, I was talking at like half speed, like New Orleans style, and then Hurricane Katrina got me to Louisville, and been there ever since.
Gotcha. So the Hurricane Katrina, were you already practicing law?
Yeah. I went down to Tulane in 2004, and it was a crazy year. So Red Sox win the World Series for the first time in like 100 years. So that was nuts.
Curse was broken.
Curse was broken. Patriots win the Super Bowl that year.
Yep.
And I go down there, scrawny kid, scrawny, and man, I learned how to blow student loans quickly on good food because I put on like 40 pounds down there. So probably saved my life leaving there. But I did well at Tulane because I had to because of a scholarship, and came to Louisville. And as a visiting student, they don't rank you, so it's good. 'Cause I think I would have been bottom 3 in my class. So, I was sitting in class playing online poker and stuff, and thankfully got through. Only D- I ever got in my life was at University of Louisville Law School. And it's interesting because I'm still so grateful to them. They took a chance on me coming up from Katrina. And last week was a pretty cool week because we announced that we funded $150,000 in scholarships for 2 full tuition scholarships for first-generation kids. So all my lawyers are first-generation. Mm-hmm. And they got a new dean over there, and we liked her, and she came by, and school took a chance on me, and life turned out pretty, I'm pretty blessed, so we decided to so that was last week. We try to get back.
That's awesome because I was like, you've done a lot of stuff with like University of Louisville. You bought 2,500 basketball tickets?
Yeah, man. You did your research. So with University of Louisville, we sent 2,500 people to a basketball game.
Was it Virginia?
It was against Virginia. It was when Michael Brown announced at halftime. We'd had a horrible few seasons with Kenny Payne, and then we got a new coach in. We liked his energy, and we decided that we would try to pack the house, and ended up being the largest attended game at the time since I think 2021, and that was cool. And then we do NIL now too. So we got a volleyball player, we've got a baseball player, we've got a women's basketball player. We just did an NIL donation today that got announced to the Bellarmine University. It's kind of the second school in town, and they have an old U of L basketball player, woman that coaches it, and it sounded like they needed some help, and so we helped them out. We're big with the baseball team. We sent 1,000 people to a women's game this year too. So which I like to go over the top. It's like a couple of years ago, I didn't know how much Taylor Swift tickets cost. Yeah. Our social media following sucked, and I was like, man, we need to get some followers. So I'll give away some Taylor Swift tickets if we hit this amount of followers, and so I put it out there, and we actually weren't getting many followers because people thought that it was a scam. I didn't know. I hadn't bought the tickets yet. I was like,
it's like the Willy Wonka's golden ticket.
Yeah, man. So then a local reporter was like, this isn't legit, is it? And I'm like, yeah, it's legit.
How many tickets did you give out? I heard about that.
I ended up giving away 10. Yeah, man. Yeah. I could have sent a couple people to law school for that too. But you know what? It was pretty cool because the last 2 I'd had set aside, and the reporter actually knew the local children's hospital had a good connect over there, and we found a pretty awesome girl with Down syndrome who was a huge Swiftie fan, and they set it up to where we surprised her, and it was a news story. It ended up making top 5 local news stories of the year for Louisville, and that one felt really good. And I'll tell you, karma's weird, man. So I never would have thought this, but when we went back and looked at October and November of 2024 when we did this, our intakes went up, with some even being direct attribution. Who would have thought? Like, I saw you giving away Taylor Swift tickets, so I decided to hire you for a car wreck. I mean, all in, it probably cost all that stuff. I mean, it was probably like 60 to 75 grand. Because, I was a sucker for these families. So when they won, I was like, well, here's some cash. And here's this and here's that, because you need to go have a good time too.
They got to fly out there, need hotels.
Yeah, we made sure that they didn't have to spend a dime.
Yeah.
But we did well. off of those added intakes. And again, some of them probably came directly from that. We know they did. Some of them probably had like a collateral effect. That it's a lot of what we're doing. It's hard in the marketing world. You know this with attribution. All day long you're looking at all these numbers, and you're wanting to see what your cost per case is, and you're wanting to see what's making your phone ring. But at the end of the day, even though this right here, whether it's social media or TV or something like that, even though you're not getting the direct attribution, you turn it off and you see the numbers go down.
Yep.
So it's like right now we got some pretty cool billboards we got up, and we don't get tremendous direct attribution from it, but we're killing it numbers-wise right now, and it's the only differentiator. So even though people aren't saying I hired you because of your billboard, clearly it's got something to do with it, because everything else is still the control. That's the one that's the test.
We are infamously known for being like 3-4 years ago being like, if you can't track where the case came from, don't spend the dollars on that advertising. And now we're like, attribution is almost impossible to do anymore.
It's multi-touch.
It's multi-touch over the journey. Even with like Google's changed, everything's changed. You have leading indicators, but like you should know, like, test it, see if it works, and you can feel if the call volume picks up. You're getting more leads. No one's gonna tell you exactly where it came from, but sometimes you just need to do stuff that's not perfectly mathematical or logical. Will be the biggest return. Taylor Swift tickets, buying 2,500 basketball tickets. It's like, that's not like what's the ROI gonna be from this? Like, I'm doing it because it feels right and I know it's gonna work.
Well, and I wish other lawyers would kind of realize too, in the grand scheme of things, 2,500 basketball tickets sounds stupid because, sticker price to get into the Yum Center. I mean, we got the nicest college basketball arena in the country, and I don't understand why we do this, but we charge to get into the arena to buy a ticket, sit nosebleed is $50. But when I reached out to Louisville and said, hey, I want to send some people to games, they said, well, that would be awesome. And I said, okay, so what's it going to cost? And they said, it's going to cost you $5 a ticket. And so on paper, I sent 2,500 people to a game, which was amazing. It was 12.5 that I was in for, and I did get cases off of that, 3. So, okay, 3 cases. Well, one of them ended up being like a college baseball player. His mom called, and that fee alone off of that case was $35,000. Yeah. So I already made 3 times. My ROI was already 3x off of that right there, and I can't remember what happened with the other 2, but we're dealing with such a high revenue model in our business. All it takes is one call. It's kind of like at the end of the year, I'll look at TV sometimes and I'll be like, damn it, we spent a lot of money and we were only signing, 10 a month off of TV. But then I say, wait a minute, we had a $6 million case and that was TV. Yeah. And it seems like a lot of times agencies in particular and folks that aren't exclusively, working in the PI world, they forget that we're not selling widgets for $50 a piece. You got to do something, and you got to get in front of somebody who at the right time is going to call you on that one case that just gets everybody excited and that ends up being a life-changing case for them and for us. I remember when I got my first big case. It was life-changing, and that case was all because I worked well with an expert witness who saw that I was young and hungry. He knew that a criminal defense lawyer in Eastern Kentucky was in over his head on a case, and if I hadn't taken a little bit of extra time to go and actually be a student with this expert witness, I wouldn't have been over there. And then all of a sudden, because of that, I was able to double my marketing budget and just travel the country on that case and have a blast.
Speaking of big cases, like, you were thrust into the national spotlight recently. What was that like? For those who don't know what the case is, pretty well known.
Well, I've got a lot of. I've been fortunate enough to work. I like high-profile cases. So I had Breonna Taylor's case, yep. And that was
big news coverage.
It was big news coverage. I had a class action against State Farm that was good news coverage. Had an Indiana jail death case that was good news coverage. And then right now, I've got the privilege of working with Clifford Law Office out of Chicago for 5 families, a bad UPS plane crash that happened back in November.
Oh, yep.
You had 3 pilots.
I didn't know you were involved in that one.
Yeah, I'll tell you. You had 3 pilots that passed away, and then you had 12 civilians. Yep. And I'm not an aviation lawyer. There was nothing. I'm not one of those lawyers that's going to say, wait a minute, there's a new mass tort or there's an opportunity. I'm going to go ahead because I've got a marketing presence and try to snag those cases. That's just not how I do things. So I'm sure you can imagine how shocked I was when after this happened, families started calling us. And I'm like, really? And then, so we had a family that called us right away. And then another one called. And then another one called. And before you know it, I'm I'm not going to go all in on aviation wrongful death case. It's so important for these families unless I know that I'm working with the best people in the world. So my job at that point was to go find co-counsel, and then find co-counsel that I work well with, that I just feel comfortable with, that's going to realize that I'm not just going to sit on the sidelines. You better teach me. I'm going to go all into. And these guys from Chicago that we found, they're just phenomenal. Bob Clifford, when all of a sudden I started looking into him, he shows up the next day. It's like, I talked to 3 different firms. And
I think he does it.
Here he is the next day.
Yeah.
He was lead counsel on 9/11.
Yeah.
When you look at you think they fake their results on their website because of the way they are. And you're just going through and you're like, oh my God. And here he is showing up the next day at my office. Before he even knows where I am, he has already done a circle around my office and walked around and introduced him to everybody, because he's vetting us just like we're vetting him. So anyways, that's when I get all in on a case, I'm all in, and that one right now, that's my passion. So anyways, long story short, we're working for 5 families out of that 5 of the death cases out of the 15.
I didn't know you guys had that one.
Yeah.
I have follow-up questions. How do you get those calling you? I have attorneys all the time. They're like, Marc, how do we get the big cases, the really big ones? How do I get this horrible thing happened? How do I make sure they call me? And I was like, it's not that easy.
It's not that easy. So, especially on that one, because I get it. If you get in a pretty catastrophic truck wreck, you're going to see on our website, and you're going to see me. Yeah. You're going to see that we know trucking. We know what we're doing. But on that one right there, I think that what it was, and I could be wrong, it's just that we take care of Louisville, and I think that these families just know that. Let's face it. A lot of these families. This was what happened was it crashed into a scrapyard. Yep. And so a lot of these families.
I remember seeing the videos. It's horrible.
Oh, it's horrible. And these families are, they're broken right now, and these weren't folks that were out making 6-7 figures a year. And these were tight-knit families that lost some people that, it's bad. And so I think that they probably just saw that we've got Louisville's back. I've had some big results. Getting to work for these families, it's real for us. And who knows at the end of the day? I would like to think that's what it was. I'm a karma guy, so I feel like the community realizes now that I'm competitive and I'm karma driven, and I'm not going to let anybody outwork me or get a better result for you than I can. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm not going to do anything for you that's just a cookie cutter.
I love that. It's like that. That's how you get the big cases. Like investing in the community, like when it doesn't make sense. Well, not say it doesn't make sense, but like buying 2,500 tickets is like because you wanted to. Yeah, I remember reading the story. You started like 1,000. You're like, fuck it, I need 500 more.
That's exactly what it was.
It's not like you're arguing with your marketing manager. Like this doesn't make sense. How many cases are you gonna get? You're like, I'm doing it because it feels right.
No, man. Unfortunately for my marketing team, it's I'm asking for forgiveness a lot more than permission. If it's cold out and people need some coats, we'll go out and buy them some coats. And if there's just something that needs to be done, we do it. But what I found is that your people, when they see that your heart's in the right place, it feels good. Like all of my teams, they get a discretionary budget at the end of the case, which is my money. It doesn't come out of theirs. It doesn't come out of the client's. To where if you developed like a real nice bond with the client or something, they come in, they're picking up their settlement check. I tell them just, spend up to $250 on just something personal that's like a thank you. One person was a diehard 1990s Bulls fan that was kind of, that just loved Dennis Rodman. So when he showed up at the office, we had a Dennis Rodman jersey waiting for him right there. And his kid, we had a little Jordan jersey for him. And it's because it feels good. My favorite part of the day is when I'm sitting in the office and like a client comes in and they're picking up their check, and a lawyer will run in and say, hey, do you want to meet so-and-so? Let's face it, we got 1,000 clients, I haven't met them. And I'm like, heck yeah, I come out and tell them it's the ultimate privilege to get to represent them, and get to give them a hug and get that pride knowing that my team took good care of them. So it's real rewarding what we get to do. And frankly, with my upbringing and everything else, I resonate, and get along and feel more comfortable around most of the clients than lawyers anyway. No, I'm knocking myself, not the lawyers. Lawyers in my community are great. I just feel more comfortable sitting down with clients.
How did the Breonna Taylor case come across your door? Once again, not known as like a national civil rights wrongful death police shooting.
I was the guy that quietly had been willing to take on the police for like the 5 years preceding
Not
that.
a lot of people like taking those cases. They're kind of real ugly, a lot of work.
Yeah, it's like Chris Stewart in Atlanta said. He said, I'm not a civil rights lawyer. He said, I'd love nothing more than never get another call again. Yeah. Because that would mean that people aren't out killing other people that they shouldn't be doing. But for a few years, I'd taken on a couple police shooting cases. I'd gone real hard at LMPD over some, traffic stop cases. I knew a lot behind the scenes. The department just wasn't policing.
Yeah, you had experience dealing with them and going through it.
But every year, my Christmas is in March, and it's when I get to take my team out to Vegas, actually. It's for March Madness. I take them out for the first week, and it's my way of just saying, hey, let's have a good time, thanks. I've done it the last, I think, 13 years. And that year we had to pivot because it was COVID. So right when we were getting ready to finalize, travel plans and everything, the ACC tournament got canceled, and then the NCAA tournament got canceled, and we decided, at the last minute, I was like, we went and got an Airbnb down in Fort Lauderdale. So it was nice, So we're down there, and I remember we're just sitting around relaxing, and I get a phone call from a guy who said, hey, listen, I'm sitting here with a family right now, and they want to talk to you. The daughter got killed yesterday in a shooting. Her boyfriend thought that they were getting broken into, and he fired a shot at the door, and then they shot back and killed her. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, they got shot at and they shot back. I'm happy to talk to him, but I don't think that there's going to be anything there. And I'm getting more details. And actually, at the time, the guy that was relaying this to me, the one thing that he got wrong factually is he thought that Breonna Taylor was still an EMT and was still employed by the city of Louisville. And so at that point, I heard that, and I was like, well, city on city, this is going to, I want to look into a little bit more, because that's an issue. If the city's looking at this case, that's bad optics. If the police got shot at, even if they shot back, what are they doing at that place if it's at midnight, if it's an EMT?
Yeah.
And she wasn't an EMT at the time. I said, when I get back, I want to see the place. And I went over there, and it looked like a war zone. Officially, there was 33 gunshots that were, that even the feds came out and said that they could identify. I still think that number was low. We had some really good experts on that case.
33 gunshots.
33 gunshots.
That's a lot.
Well, in that case, I've still got some things about that case. It came out that, there was 3 officers that shot. We're pretty confident that there was at least 4, maybe 5. There's things that didn't come out in that case that I don't know why. But at the same time, it's also not like I'm sitting here on knowledge that changes the world or the optics or of anything. I just, there's certain things that between LMPD and the Attorney General's office and the feds that they concluded that our experts thought were a little, we had neighbors that saw a 4th shooter, and there were just some things that were, that case had a lot of issues. So that happened, March 12th, 13th of 2020. Even in April, things are moving slow. COVID is in, and that April of that year, literally we're delivering care packages each day. We'd made like 1,000 of them around the community. And in that case, I don't want to call it an afterthought, but nothing could really happen on my end until I filed suit and got subpoena power. So that lawsuit was filed at the end of April, and I remember somebody in the county attorney's office at that time saying, "Hey Sam, this one, maybe we should sit down and talk about this and see if we can, talk about resolving it." And I'm sitting there thinking, what the fuck? You guys never say that. And not only that, your guy got shot and, shot back. What's going on here? Yeah. So that kind of made my senses go up a little bit. But I'll give it. It was the activist Sean King, who I remember one day, it was in the middle of May. Actually, it was early May. And people start texting me and saying, "Hey, listen, I heard more about your police case." I'm like, okay. And then by the end of the day, I'm having reporters and stuff reach out, and his podcast had so much influence that he'd sat down with Breonna's aunt and released the podcast that day and kind of given some exposure to it, and people were really, really curious. And by that Sunday, I'd met Ben Crump a few times at the time. I met him a few times and just had nothing but respect for him. He's on the phone and talking about working it together, and I'd had a private investigator out doing some work, and a few weeks later, George Floyd got killed, and really, I never in my wildest dreams did I think that Louisville and Minneapolis would be the epicenter of the world for civil rights movement, and that we would get to play a big part in it. I was laughing a few weeks ago, and I'll say it even though I know this, people are going to hear this. So we just had primaries in Louisville, and we had a lady, a woman, nice woman, running for county attorney, and she was from the county attorney's office. And then there was a local lawyer who was running against her. So all of a sudden, she must have raised a lot of money because, for county attorney's office, all of a sudden I'm seeing her commercials run left and right. But on the commercial, it was her and my other co-counsel at the time, Lanita Baker, and Lanita's amazing. And really Lanita's role in the case was she built a phenomenal bond with the family, and she could take all the media inquiries, and she was really good with that. I was digging deep and actually working, the trenches of the case. But in this ad, all of a sudden, they're sitting there, and this candidate for county attorney, and she'll win, and if she sees this, she'll get pissed off I'm saying this, but I don't care. She's saying, well, when it came down to settling the Breonna Taylor case, we were tasked with coming up with the police reform and, deciding what we were going to do with LMPD, and it was hard work and we did it. And I'm sitting there saying, I wrote all that shit in my office. I'm sitting there thinking, I wrote all those reforms in my office. I hand-delivered them over there myself. The mayor's person went over there and went through them and determined what they were agreeable to and what they weren't. And the mayor and I couldn't at the time, we couldn't get in a room together. We didn't like each other. Yeah. And you guys sat there with a piece of paper and said, this is what they agree to and this is what we agree to. And I'm like, you're really going to go and campaign and spend, 6 figures on this ad right here and run it and because I was proud of writing the police reform. There was things in there that, no offense on them, there were things that I knew about LMPD that I put in there that they probably still to this day would read and say, I don't know what that means, like an early intervention warning system and stuff like that. But, one day I just, I had a lot of leverage at the time, so I wrote up a settlement proposal. I didn't ask my co-counsel for permission, just asked him for forgiveness, ran it over there, dropped it off, and a few weeks later we sat down and the county attorney at the time, I used to smoke too many cigars, and he's a cigar smoker, and so I'm calling him from my back porch, with my cigar, and taking the call from his back deck with his cigar, and
it's like a movie.
Sam, you're asking for too much money, and no, I'm not, and I really enjoyed talking to him, and I've realized too that from a negotiation standpoint, if you're a decent person and you're a straight shooter, and you don't overplay your cards, there's a lot of people out there that's going to go a long way with. Man, I've been talking for like 6. Ask me another question. I've been getting going.
What's it like being on like the national stage where you're getting like a lot of coverage on a case? Media inquiries, it's like a different beast to deal with because you have eyeballs coming from both sides. You have people who are supporting you. Yeah. You have people on the other side who think it's bullshit. Yeah. And had national coverage and everyone was stuck at home. So it was like.
Yeah, I checked out for over a year after that case was done. I didn't like it, and I realized I'm not built for the spotlight. I love being there for Louisville. Thank God I had Lanita at the time and Ben.
Yeah, Ben's kind of built for that.
Oh God, yes. People don't realize. Some people just have misconceptions about Ben. Ben starts working each day at about 5:30 in the morning. He works until midnight. He makes it home to spend a day with his kids and wife on the weekend, and then starts all over again. He has sacrificed so much, and he doesn't stop. It's incredible watching him work and everything that he does. And he's got a passion for the law. I think a lot of people, too, don't realize that about him. Like, he still goes and tries some cases, and it's, he's a student of the game. But I didn't like I don't like the polarization. It's really hard for me to keep my mouth shut if somebody takes a personal jab or something. It's like, that's not true. And I don't have thick skin, I realize, especially when they would, and again, if they're going to come at me, that's one thing. But when they would start saying things about the family, that's another. A lot of rumors came out, the police behind the scenes, and, we represent a lot of police officers against departments that do them wrong and on car wrecks. They know that we do good work, so they hire us when we get in a car wreck. We get them a bunch of money. But I'm not, I didn't like the spotlight. So, I tend to be kind of more of an introvert. It's probably why I'm talking so much, because I get a little uncomfortable with it. But I'm not built for the spotlight. I like being there for people in Louisville. I like grinding behind the scenes. And, don't get me wrong, if it's an important case with a lot on the line, I'm going to do good work for you. But I'm going to, work harder for you than anybody. But those civil rights cases are taxing. Like, it was, when it was done, I got
emotionally wise, it's got to be a roller coaster.
Yeah, the Attorney General's office, they, I had to go through like a, you'd be surprised. I had to go through like criminal investigation. They looked at them. I had a bullseye on me. Like, it was for about a year and a half. Like, I wasn't in the best place. So it was, and that's when our marketing started suffering too. It was, a lot of the community forgot that we're a personal injury firm that's going to take on anything when it's the right thing to do, but that we're really going to crush it for you in personal injury. A lot of the community thought that we'd kind of abandoned our bread and butter, and our numbers started to tank. And, that was challenging, man. I have huge respect for the lawyers that wake up every single day for decades doing nothing but civil rights work, especially with the hoops that you got to go through to win those cases. I mean, like, I don't advertise for civil rights. I negative keyword civil rights. I don't want civil rights phone calls, and that's not because I don't care. It's because they are brutal, brutal cases. But at the same time, there's just certain ones that call each year, and I'm like, yeah, I got you. You need me, and
There's no one better that'll take care of you. I got to take it.
yeah, I mean, I'm a plaintiff's lawyer. There's a little bit of an ego. I don't think there's anybody in Louisville that's going to do a civil rights case better than I do, and it's just because the law is really nuanced. Yeah. And billboards and commercials and stuff aside, I'm the legal researcher and writer. I like to do that a lot. So I've gotten summary judgment for 3 plaintiffs on civil rights cases against departments, which is unheard of. Like, the court said I win without a trial.
Usually they fight.
Usually they get kicked. I mean, I think it's 85% of civil rights cases get kicked out on dispositive motions and never even make it past the, they either die at the district court, or they go to the Court of Appeals and they, because they died at the district court, and then they're revived for 20 minutes and die again at the Court of Appeals. So, I've had a good little run on those cases.
I even know some lawyers who have won cases and then just not gotten paid because they just said no.
Yeah, I always hate those stories about I hate it for the lawyers that put in their blood, sweat, and tears and their money. People don't realize how expensive some of these cases can get. I mean,
you had experts.
Breonna Taylor's case, we got that done in lightning speed, and God bless the community. They helped.
There's a ton of pressure from the community, from everywhere to get that done.
Yeah, that wasn't me. That was a collective effort.
You had a team with you too.
But I'd already spent over $500,000 on that case, and
not chump change.
in 6 months. Forensic pathologists and shooting reconstructionists, and it was a blast. Don't get me wrong, but that's a case that would have been a tough one at the end of the day. We had the leverage, but from a legal standpoint, that wasn't a slam dunk case.
If you would have went to trial, that would have been a long.
I'm saying I don't know if it would have made its trial.
Yeah.
The neighbors had a civil case that was based on the same fact pattern. They didn't get shot, but it was based on the same legal theories, and the federal court kicked it, threw it out, said you don't have a case. Let's shift gears. Those cases are hard. God bless. And I will say this though, Breonna Taylor's sister, Janiyah, is like my daughter now. She works in the office.
Really?
Yeah. Her son's like my godson. So it's cool, the bonds that you build in these cases. I mean, I talked to Janiyah yesterday, and her son Harlan. He looks a little bit like Breonna. It's cool. It's cool.
Well, one of the things you've said a couple times, like, you have Louisville's back. What is your advice for the attorneys that are listening, of how you build that real bond in the community? So
that's a good question. One of the things that I see, it starts by doing people right. And what I see a lot with younger lawyers is that they don't realize that a small good deed, if it's genuine, goes a long way. People need to see that you really care. If you get a nice big case in, or even, I'll tell you, my first big case, I remember, when I say big case, when I went out on my own, it was like a $250,000 policy limits case. But the only reason I got that case is because 6 months prior, this accident victim, poor thing, she went 2 for 2. She had a horrible wreck, but she was at fault for the first one. But in Kentucky, you got PIP benefits, and depending on who the carrier is and how you work it out, you can get that money directed to you as opposed to just going to a hospital. Mm-hmm. She had $200,000 hospital bill, and there was only $10,000 in benefits. I said, listen, you're in a bad wreck. I appreciate you reaching out, but there's nothing I can do for you. She knew she was at fault. But I said, I can get you these $10,000 in PIP benefits. At State Farm, I know they'll pay them to you, so I'll get them for you. And you don't take a fee off of PIP. I knew how easy it was, and I knew that $10,000 was going to at least, help her keep a roof over her head for a couple months. Then 6 months later, she's gotten a bad wreck, and of course she called me, and that was $250,000. And people want a lawyer that's going to be like, that's my lawyer, that's not my personal injury lawyer, that's my lawyer. And when you go above and beyond and do a few things a little bit early, you're their lawyer if you do it right. And not only that, social proof is so big now. Think about it. If we're in Vegas, I'm not going to a restaurant tonight that's got a 3.9 out of 5. Mm-hmm. And I was looking the other night, and I was like, this place, I've heard good things about this place. It was a place here in the Wynn, and I can't remember which one it was, and it was like a 3.8 out of 5, and immediately, I'm not going there. You know, if you go out right now and you build the reviews, and they're legit, and you just do some people right, they're going to talk. I've got a case right now. This poor girl, I mean, she is in bad shape, and there's going to be $100,000 in coverage, and we're not taking any money off of that. I mean, this girl's medical bills alone are going to be like, $750,000, and blessed in a situation where, I'll still give the lawyer what he would have got off of it, but sometimes if you just do the right thing, I mean, I think this girl's dad's gonna, this girl's dad will know that most people in town would have taken 40% off of $100,000. That it's gonna take us 2 weeks for the insurance company to pay this money. I mean, once we get the first medical bill in, hell, with the pictures, they'll probably pay us $100,000. We're gonna give it to her.
Not like 40 grand chump change, but like 40 grand to her compared to 40 grand to you is like a huge difference from impact to your life.
Correct, and I get it that young lawyers looking at this are gonna be like, yeah, I need 40 grand. I can't just do that for free.
Yeah.
Take 15 grand.
Yeah.
Don't take 40 grand. Go above and beyond and make sure that you come up with any creative legal theory that you can for that lien holder on the medicals to have to waive it. When it's that girl's birthday, she likes dragons, we found out. So actually it was her birthday last week. We had dragon blankets to give to the dad to make sure that she had, and stuff. And it's not hard to be nice. It's not hard to show that you care. I could get blankets and t-shirts and personalized, things for clients that they like for all of my clients that I've got in my inventory right now. And it's going to be 1/5 of my TV budget for the month.
Yeah. Nothing.
And
nothing,
again,
yeah,
some people might be watching and being like, yeah, but your TV budget's high. Well, first of all, no, it's not that high. But the point is that whether it's, $20 here, $100 here, showing up to somebody's birthday, just even calling them, any law firm that's not reaching out to their clients on holidays and on their birthday, they're just missing out because AI can do a lot of what we do right now, and it frees up the time for us to go and do the personal things. Fuel is expensive right now, so.
Oh, yes. Fuel's expensive makes everything expensive.
Yeah, so if you show up at our office, as long as you can substantiate the mileage for coming out, we'll give you a gas card. I mean, it's we can't go out and buy clients, but at the same time, it's, obviously there's ethics rules against that, but I can sure as hell, if you're coming out for your case, make sure that you're not coming out of pocket just to come see us. Again, it's not hard to be nice. It's I was talking earlier how I'm uncoachable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've tried some entrepreneurial coaches.
I think we might have got some of that on video.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I'm uncoachable, but at the same time, I love to get little nuggets. And my favorite one, and I say this all the time, is when I was taught the platinum rule versus the golden rule. And, we're all taught growing up to treat people the way we want to be treated, but that's bullshit. Treat people the way they want to be treated, and that's the platinum rule. So, it's one of the things that really I try to preach throughout our office is, hey, listen, once you get to know your client, how they want to be treated. What their kids are going through right now. You want to know by a certain point what they like to talk about. What their favorite team is. What the most important question we can ask at intake is, what's the biggest challenge for you right now?
Yep.
Because
it might be paying rent right now.
It might be paying rent. It might be that your kid has a baseball game tomorrow and you don't know how you're going to get him there, let alone you. It might be that you were supposed to have a job interview. It could be anything. But that better be your first talking point when you get on the phone. My intake team has told you right away what this person's biggest problem is. So go and make sure that is the first thing that we attack, because if you go and show them that you're listening, that what their pressure, what's causing them the stress right now. You can't make them feel better, but they might not have a doctor to go to. Well, we know 100 different doctors around, and we're not going to tell you where to go, but by God, if you're sitting here asking us, we'll tell you, hey, listen, we know that this doctor, that our clients say that he does great work or that she does great work, and we know that at the end of the day, the insurance companies respect the treatment that's given by this doctor. Point being is that as lawyers and as people that work in law firms, I've seen a lot of times that they can assume too much. Just because we've had 20,000 cases come through our office does not mean that we know what's going to happen with this person, or we know what's going to happen with this claim, or we know what this person's biggest fear and concern is right now. Every case is individual, and people know when they're being treated like a real person versus when they're being treated like just the next the next person that called your law firm and became a client. My favorite thing in our office is if you walk in, it's almost like a tunnel. because on both sides, it's just walls that are full of like collages of us and pictures with our clients smiling at
That's
the end of
cool.
the case. It's so cool. And I like it because if clients show up, they see that we actually care, and that these clients aren't pretending. They were happy and they smiled, and yeah, it was on their settlement day, but at the same time, you know, that it is a family. You're always going to be a part of the office, and I like it too though, because it reminds our people when they show up why we do what we do.
Yeah, hard work. It's like fulfilling.
Well, it's tangible in our world. You can see the results. For years, I kind of had a tagline that fit. It was hurting a car, call Sam Aguiar.
Yeah.
I needed something, but I was just sitting around one day and I was like, man, you know, people want, these days, I think that they just want to know that we're going to do it for you. So it's, you know, you go to my website, it says you focus on, you know, getting better, we'll do everything else for you. And I tell my team that's the promise we make, so we do it.
This has been a great episode. We can keep going for forever. I know you're busy. You got stuff you got to do.
I'm rambling. I changed my flight. Just, you know, I like Randy, man. So he's like, hey, listen, you know, get up
Good
there.
job, Randy.
And I called my wife and said, hey, listen, I'm thinking red eye, you know, and she's amazing. So she said she said that's fine. And I said good, because if it wasn't, I was going to tell you I'm doing the podcast and everything else, but I didn't even need to give her an excuse. So no, I've enjoyed coming up here, man. Final
Advice for people that are listening that you want to share of like things you've learned over the years that you wish you would have learned to wrap it up.
Yeah. So the next generation, I mean, you know, I worry about you guys.
You're not like an old man too.
Dude, I mean, I feel like I you know, it got to a point where I play tennis. That's kind of my thing. You know, I'm not like a great tennis player or anything, but it's my exercise. I'm pretty quick, but I got a horrible swing. Horrible. I've got no kinetic chain. So each year I've gotten like a new injury going all the way up the arm. And so, you know, 4 years ago I would have told you, you know, I'm young, but now it's like, dude, I'm getting there. But that generation, I'm worried about the generation that comes in right now. You know, mental health's real, so don't overdo it. But at the same time, you got to work and you got to care. And the line of work that I'm in is so fulfilling. You know, I mean, in this day and age where there's a lot of negativity out there and there's a lot of polarization, you know, what we get to do each day is really, really rewarding. And I mean, from an entrepreneurial standpoint for those out there too, I mean, it's a lucrative business. I mean, let's be real. I mean, I don't know how long we've got left in this industry. Cars are going to get safer. You know, private equities come in and buying up everything. And, you know, AI can do a lot of what we can do right now. You know, I'm not naive, but AI can't show care and empathy, and it can't, you know, go above and beyond for somebody, or get on a phone call and make sure that you're not going to get off until you know that you made that person's day. So for this generation, you know, I'd tell them, hey, listen, you got to work harder than ever. That now more than ever, you don't need millions of dollars a year to advertise. You know, you need to have a reputation that you can back up, that you do people right, that if somebody comes to you, they know that even if AI can do it, or even if there's 1,000 other lawyers in town that can do it, they're going to just feel good and comfortable with you, you know, and that they know that there's an authenticity when you're on the phone with them. They know that when they see you in person that you really do care. I think that right now, I mean, the other thing is you got to be able to litigate. If you're not that one person, the other one is that you got to be able to litigate, because AI can't litigate. So if you're not going to go in and be a trial lawyer and litigate and get big verdicts or take cases to the mat, and thankfully I've got great lawyers to do that, then you need to be human. And you know, we all need to realize that everybody has some issues going on, and that we're put in a really unique position in our role to where we can help people that otherwise don't have somebody.
They've never had anyone help them?
No, they're marginalized, man. I love the whole David versus Goliath. I love taking on insurance companies, and the feeling you get for winning for somebody that's been marginalized their whole life, when they realize that they've got a voice on their side that just took on a multi-billion-dollar insurance company and kicked their ass, like there's not many better feelings than that, man.
Sam, love the episode.
Cool.
You're great. Final thing, for those, anyone wants to reach out to you, ask you questions, what's the best way to that camera to get a hold of you?
Oh, well, yeah, I've got the vanity number. So you just call 502-888-8888. You can shoot me an email at sam@kylawoffice.com. 502-813-8900, I can get text messages on. So it's not my personal cell phone, but if it's somebody that's listening that really, you know, just, it's like, damn it, I want to talk to this guy. Direct access right there.
Sam, thank you so much. It's been an honor. I really appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Sam Aguiar here. Sam Aguiar Injury Lawyers. I was just on the John and Mark podcast. Make sure that you like and subscribe and check them out. They do good work.